Good day all. Today we shall be looking at the life cycle of an Android operating system and then looked at how it used to be implemented before and the newer way of implementing it now in Jetpack Compose. So stay tuned. Okay, before I explain this diagram, let's go to the official documentation and see what it says. So here is the official documentation for Activity Lifecycle. It says that as a user navigates through, out of, and back to your app, the activity instances in your app transitions through different states in their lifecycle. The activity class provides a number of callbacks that lets the activity know when a state changes or that the system is creating, stopping, or resuming an activity, or destroying the process the activity resides in. Within the lifecycle callback methods, you can declare how your activity behaves when the user leaves and re-enters the activity. For example, if you are building a streaming video player, you might pause the video and terminate the network connection when the user switches to another app. When the user returns, you can reconnect to the network and let the user resume the video from the same spot. And then it says each callback lets you perform specific work that's appropriate to a given change of state. Doing the right work at the right time and handling transitions properly make your app more robust and performant. For example, good implementation of the lifecycle callbacks can help your app avoid the following: crashing if the user receives a phone call or switches to another app while using your app; consuming valuable system resources when the user is not actively using it; losing the user's progress if they leave your app and return to it at a later time; then crashing or losing the user's progress when the screen rotates between landscape and portrait orientation. So let's stop here. What this is trying to tell us is that the activity lifecycle has processes that it undergoes, and for each process it tells you whether you are starting your app, you are resuming the activity, pausing the activity, destroying the activity, and so on. So if you are building, let's say, a video app, when you are on screen watching your video and you paused the video, or peradventure when a call enters your phone and your phone rings, the video is going to be paused, and then when you receive that call, that activity, you have left that activity, so the activity is in its idle state, and now your phone call is in the visible state. So what happens when it goes to the onPause method? What happens to your code? Have you been able to build the app in such a way that when a user navigates away, maybe receiving phone call or doing other activities, you'll be able to handle the app more adequately so that the app doesn't crashes? Or you have abandoned all those callbacks for the life cycle? If you have done so, it means that your app will continue to crash and you will lose users' progress. For example, you are building an app, let's say a game, and users are playing the game in your app, and then for some reasons they switch from your app to another app, and when they come back to your app, their game scores are nowhere to be found. That is a bad programming. This is what happens when you launch your app. In this diagram on the screen, as you can see, these are the processes in which it happens in the background immediately you launch your app, but you don't tend to observe these things because the app opens within a split second, and so you won't observe all these things. But let me explain it bit by bit so that you understand what happens immediately you launch any app on your Android devices. So immediately you launch the app, it goes to the onCreate state, and what happens in the onCreate state is that it connects to your manifest, checks if there are permissions that are given which needs to be obeyed, and then checks the orientation of your screen, whether it's in portrait or landscape, so that it gives the user exactly what the developer wants the users to see. Then immediately it goes to the onStart state. When it's on the onStart state, that is when it's trying to bring the view to the user. You won't see the view immediately until it reaches the onResume state. So after the onStart state, it goes to the onResume state, and then boom, the activity is now running. That is where you use your applications, you do your app transfers, you listen to music, you do different activities on the app. Then what happens when you are using the app and then a call enters your phone? You need to pick that call. So when you pick the call, your app now goes to the onPause state, meaning it is being paused so that system resources will be utilized more efficiently. So when you receive the phone call, the app goes to the onPause state, and while on the onPause state, if your phone screen gets locked or goes blank while on the call, then your app goes to the onStop state, because it assumes that phone resources are not being used, and your app goes to the idle state. What happens when it's on the onDestroy state? It means that you have closed the app entirely from the background. That is when it goes to the onDestroy state. But in each of these methods, especially when it's on the onStop method, you can still go back to onRestart method. From onRestart, it goes to the onStart, meaning that while you're on the phone call, or immediately after the phone call and your screen comes back on, your app will still go back to the normal way it used to be after the phone call. Else it goes to the destroy state while the app process is being killed. So this is how the life cycle goes from the onStart to the onPause to the onResume to the destroyed state. So let us now see how these methods are being called in our activity class. So I'll navigate to Android Studio. Yep, my Android Studio is open. So here is my main activity.kt file for a project I've been working on. Just wanted to use this so that I'll show you how to call these methods. Now we are on the onCreate method, and in the onCreate method already there are some actions that are being implemented here. So let's try to call the onStart method inside this main activity.kt file. So we say onStart, and then here is the function, override function onStart. So we have our onCreate, we have our onStart, then let's call our onResume state. So onResume, here's our onResume. Then our onPause, here is our onPause. Then onStop state, onStop, override function onStop. Then we call our onDestroy state, onDestroy, and here's our function for onDestroy. So you see we now have our onCreate method, our onStart, onResume, onPause, onStop, and onDestroy methods. So in this activity class, whatever I'm working on, let's say I'm working on my music app or my video app, these are the states where I can call my onPause and onResume methods. So if a user pauses the music, my state should be in the onPause, so that when I'm in the onPause state, my music is being paused, and when I come back to the resume state, my music should be playing. So that is how it has been implemented in the activities state, in the activity class. But now in Jetpack Compose, we don't need to implement it this way in our activity class, because we have different composables, we have our business logic, and we cannot be referring back to our main activity every time we're working on our business logic. So there is a better way of implementing this. This is the standard and much more efficient way to implement Android Lifecycle using the Lifecycle Observer class. So what you basically do is you go to your Android Studio, maybe create a package name, create a new class name. You can name the class anything. For example, what is being given here is a camera component class name, and then you extend this camera component class name to a Lifecycle Observer. This Lifecycle Observer makes sure that it observes all those states that we have mentioned: the onCreate, onStart, onResume, onStop, and then onDestroyed states. So it observes all of these states. So what you basically do is copy this code, put it in the new class file that you created. Then all you need to do is to change this event.onResume. So if you want to use the onResume state, you put the onResume state. If you want to use the onStart state, then you change this onResume to onStart, and then write the function you want it to implement whenever it goes into the specific state. For example, this one here is for a camera component. It says here that when the app goes into the onResume state, the camera is not in focus, then it should open the camera. And then let's go to this onPause state using the Lifecycle Observer. On the onPause state here, it says that if the user has released this camera, that is, if you have closed the camera, then the camera should be assigned null, meaning that when you are using the app, the camera should be opened so that you can take photos or do videos. But immediately you step out of the app, which makes the apps to go to the onPause state, then it should release the camera so that your battery will not be drained while performing another function in another. Basically what this function does here. I observed something with the YouTube Music app. I think most of us have the YouTube Music app. When you open the music app, you want to listen to music, and you have not subscribed to the YouTube plan for music. When you play the music and it's playing, when you lock your screen or you minimize the app, the music stops. And when you resume back to the app, you will be able to play the music back. And so I was wondering what is happening. At first I thought it was my phone that was misbehaving. So when I subscribed to the YouTube Music plan, whenever I close the app, my music continues to play in the background. So what I came to understand is that the YouTube developers made this thing deliberately, that if you do not subscribe to their plan, you only listen to music when the app is in full focus. That means when the app is opened, you have not locked your screen, you have not navigated away from the app, then you'll be able to listen to music, and then this YouTube adverts pops up. But immediately you go to another app, the music stops. It does not play in the background except you have a YouTube plan, you have subscribed to any of the YouTube plans. So understanding this Android lifecycle makes you to understand how some apps behaves. So I hope you have learned a lot from this tutorial on Android lifecycle, and if you like this video, I suggest that you subscribe to my channel, and then you get more of these videos, and please like this video. Thank you.